Hey, this is Carla.
This is Jasmine.
And you're listening to Cracking the Coconut,
where we tackle taboo conversations in the Filipino community.
By cracking one coconut at a time. Welcome to episode 3 of Cracking the Coconut. I am super excited. We are now in the toddler stage of this season, the terrible 3 or the terrific 3, depending on what kind of crotch goblin you got. Our crotch goblin, our coconut is awesome. It's a lot of hard
terrific.
Work. Yeah.
They're a terrific 3.
They're a terrific 3 for sure. I am your host, Carla J.
And I'm Jasmine. And we'd like to thank you guys for tuning in again to Cracking the Coconut. You know, it's really fresh. We're still a child, but we're making moves out here.
Making moves and learning lots.
Yes.
Lots and lots and lots. And today we are cracking getting scammed. Getting scammed fucking sucks. We both have scam stories. Jasmine's a little bit more intense. It's a good story, but it also sucks at the same time. I'm a person who enjoys watching YouTube. As you know, I love watching YouTubes. I've been watching YouTube since like 2008. And I like listening to other people's scam stories, as sad as that is. It makes me feel like I'm not alone, that we've all, gotten scammed by some trashy ass people.
Do you watch these scam stories because you feel like you could empathize? Or is it kind of more like thrilling, like, oh, what happened? Or how did they get scammed?
It's okay. So it's a mix of thrilling, like, oh, shoot. Especially when it comes from my favorite. So one of my favorite YouTubers ever is Miss Remy Ashen. Remy, if you're listening, she probably is not. But I love her.
Hey, you never know.
You never know. I'm just going to put it out there. Okay, I love Remy.
Remy.
Hi, Remy. So she got scammed by a listener or a fan, a person who watches her YouTube videos. And I thought, damn, that is a whole kind of low right there. You support the channel, you maybe love the person, and then all of a sudden you kind of stab them in the back. Kind of like Yolanda.
We're talking about Selena. We just finished watching the Selena series on Netflix. Horrible series.
Okay. Well, okay. I liked each episode because I liked diving deep into the family and all that stuff. But also, as someone who did go to film classes and who took many screenwriting classes, I feel like the production execution could have been a little bit cleaner. But as just someone watching with entertainment, I actually really liked it. I think Christian Cerratos, the cute girl,
actress?
Yeah, who plays Selena, I think she's phenomenal. I personally think she did a good job. Anyway, so we went from talking about scam to fucking Yolanda. Fuck that bitch.
She was a big scammer, so
she was the scammiest scam.
God, tragic.
Tragic.
She's horrible. Fuck that bitch.
So, continuing on, I'm going to paint the picture for everyone listening, or if you're watching us on YouTube. 2020 was a fucking clusterfuck. Do you agree?
It was a big clusterfuck.
It was
the biggest I've ever experienced in my life.
Me too. It was freaking huge.
Wow. We're so relatable.
We're so relatable. So 2020, coronavirus pandemic happened. The news about coronavirus began to surface towards the end of 2019. But honestly, I wasn't thinking anything much of it. I was not fazed whatsoever until the lockdown started happening and I started to see the lack of everything in the grocery stores, and then it kind of hit me like, oh shit
is real,
and I got really scared. But at the beginning, didn't care. I remember my last good function, or my last hurrah, as you can say, it was actually that first weekend of lockdown in March. It was a friend's birthday. He had got an Airbnb in Los Angeles. A bunch of friends from the Bay Area came down to kick it. We were all drinking, having a good time. It was a fucking blast. Do you remember your last good function?
Yeah, well, as far as a function, I too was at that get together, and I was stressed out, to be honest. I didn't have a good time at that party because all these things were already happening. Like the day prior, we were at the grocery store and everything was cleared out. No water, not even like paper towels, no food.
Mhm.
So obviously something was popping off. So it made me uneasy. And, even though like fam was coming down, and I remember one of my friends hopped off the plane, went to the Airbnb, and usually I give him like a huge hug, right? But I felt like I was kind of holding back my hug and like holding my breath because I was like, yeah, I don't know how close we should be. I don't know what the fuck's happening. Are
Mhm.
we contagious to each other?
On the other end of things, while she was holding back her hugs, I was not. I was the complete opposite. I was still trying to lick doorknobs and give everyone French kisses as they entered through the door. Oh, welcome to this humble abode.
She's wild.
Yeah, good times.
Yeah, but I wasn't having fun at all, to be honest. It was really stressful, unfortunately, for me.
Yeah, it got stressful for a lot of people, especially when people started to lose their jobs. And Jasmine and I are both included in that bunch. We both lost our jobs. I want to say you lost your job at the end of March, and mine was about like 2 weeks later at the start of April. And even though we lost our jobs, I'm also grateful that we lost our jobs at the very beginning of pandemic because we were able to easily apply for unemployment in California and easily get those checks coming in because we still had rent to pay, my car payment, all the bills, credit card bills, everything still needed to pay for. And later down the line, as pandemic started to unravel and blossom, I heard that a lot of people were having difficulties with their unemployment. They were on waiting lists, and it just became really difficult.
Yeah, it was a crazy time because like millions of people every day or every week were applying for unemployment, and I don't think California or other states' systems could even handle all that or could expect that.
Yeah.
So it was really, really interesting and stressful. The job stopped, and the pandemic was rolling, but our bills kept rolling too.
So how does this fit into scamming? So as you know, millions of people lost their jobs, which means there was a lot of shitheads out there willing to take advantage of all the vulnerable people out there in the world by scamming them. And this story, and this is Jasmine's personal story of scamming. So paint the picture for us, Jasmine. How did you get scammed by these people?
All right, so prior to getting laid off in March, I actually was in the job market since the beginning or the end of last year, end of 2020, 2019. And, I had a couple of interviews and things were rolling. But I actually had one interview. This is during when things were starting to lock down. It was for this agency, this PR agency. And I had a Zoom interview that was kind of jank. And I remember the girl at the office was saying like, I don't know why we're doing a Zoom interview because there's this pandemic. I mean, there's this coronavirus happening, but I don't really think it's a big deal. So I don't know what's going on. So this chick didn't even believe that coronavirus was a thing. And I had my suspicions, but at the same time, I was like, you know what, let's just be safe and carry on this interview with me, right? So it had been about 5 months. So this was August. And we're in the middle of moving, so a lot of things were happening, and in the middle of the move, I got this text message. And when you're applying for jobs, they also say, oh, if you want email alerts, text message alerts, click here. So I'm assuming, okay, this is part of that process. And so I get this text message from this woman saying she's the HR recruiter or the HR coordinator or something like that for this company. And they were, I've applied to like hundreds of jobs, so I don't even really remember what I applied to. But anyway.
When was this? What month was this?
Oh, this was August.
August, okay.
Yeah. So I look up this company. It's a legit company on LinkedIn. And the person was like, oh, you're going to reach out to this person who's an account manager at this certain company, and you'll hear from her. Everything was legit. I'm always the type of person who's going to look up credentials and make sure everybody is like accounted for, and this isn't like a scam, right? Pause. So, I'm going through this process and I'm communicating with this person through Telegram. And with Telegram, I thought it was completely normal because it's actually a messaging app. And this company was based in Italy. So they were saying that they were building a new office in the LA area. And essentially, I would be part of that team to help uproot this new office in LA.
Mm-hmm.
And so like they're like, yeah, okay, cool. You know, we like you. They're asking me all these great questions, and it seemed very thorough. And finally, at the end of the messaging interview, they said, okay, we're gonna email you our information. You're gonna get your HR paperwork. You're gonna sign the papers, and we'll keep you posted.
Mm-hmm.
So I think later on that day, or maybe the next day, I got an email getting this fucking like employee handbook. I get my, what is it, the
W-2?
W2 form. So for my information for, you know, my paychecks and all that. And I fill it out, send it over. It's good.
At any point, did you think, oh, am I going to personally see these people via Zoom? Because you've had Zoom interviews
Yeah.
during this pandemic.
Yeah. I guess I didn't find it weird because they were based in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, you know, maybe they don't have Zoom there. I don't know. You know, but this is just like a way to communicate.
Mhm.
And a lot of these apps are legit
Mm-hmm.
in terms of communicating with people, you know, whether it be just personally or like business wise.
Yeah.
And, you know, I figured like everything's on this app. So things are going to be like accounted for.
Gotcha.
And on the profile of this messenger had the person's picture and their name.
When you checked on LinkedIn, did that match? So,
Yes.
for example, this person's name is Susan Dimitri, and
Yeah.
then you go in LinkedIn, and Susan Dimitri exists.
Yes. Susan Dimitri is there with her photo with the company name.
Hmm.
So every morning they would tell me, all right, we'll talk to you at, I think it was maybe like 7 a.m. in the morning.
Mhm. I think it was 8.
8? Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll touch base at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I'll give you your assignment. So this was essentially part of my training. So what they did, they had me answer questions like business questions. I can't really remember, but it's like, say hypothetically, it's something like, you know, what are the basic peers of, or what are the basic tiers of a business or something. I don't know. I'm just making something up. But, you know, I would have to answer these questions. So there are probably like 3 questions every email that I just had to answer. And I was thinking, okay, cool. They're assessing the way I think, the way I answer, my professionalism, if I could spell. Every morning they say, okay, great. You know, thank you for turning this in. You passed. Touch base with me again at 8 a.m.
Question.
Yeah.
This email that was it like susan.dimitri@company.com? Was it some weird Susan
Made up
XX
shit.
Kawaii at yahoo.com?
It was the person's name, the company, I think at Gmail, or the
Mhm.
company name. I can't remember. But whatever it was, it looked legit.
Gotcha.
And it even had their signature and the company photo, the website. Everything looked solid. So after I started sending out these emails, you know, this
Mhm.
probably been going on for a week. They were mentioning about me, like, okay, great. You know, since it's a remote position, working from home, we're going to send you your materials to work. So we're going to send you a computer. We're going to send you a desk. We're going to send you a filing cabinet, all this shit that's going to help me do my job.
Okay.
So this is where it got weird.
Okay.
They're like, okay, we're going to send you a check for the materials. And what you're going to do is you're going to deposit it into your Cash App. And then you're going to send that Cash App to somebody, some name.
You didn't think it was really off that you would have to submit it through Cash App? Because it's Cash App.
It's, you know, when I think about it now, it's like I should have seen these fucking signs,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I'm telling you, like, there's so many factors that affected my judgment. And then the other thing was this company was in Italy. I don't know how many transfers from country to country. I know there's like Western Union or whatever, or like those check cashing places, but to me, I was just assuming that this was a way to do a money transaction so they can get the materials. Yes, it didn't make any sense that I had to deposit these freaking checks into my Cash App or, my account to send Cash App to this vendor. The thing is, I asked them, I was like, I just wanted to know, why would I be sending money to this vendor for my training materials? And they're like, well, this is a vendor we've used for a bunch of years. It's a way for us to send money and do these transactions because, we're in Italy. Or whatever.
You need to tell the audience what these furniture looked like, because they were going to send you a big L-shaped desk.
Yeah. They were going to send me a big L-shaped desk as if I had a big ass office. And keep in mind, I have a separate area that I put aside in the apartment that I could work from to have a desk. And then I remember, I was like, can I get the dimensions for the desk and the cabinet? I just want to make sure that it fits my space here. So I'm like out there with a tape measure and measuring my space, making sure all this shit fits. And they're like, yeah. I think we'll be able to get you a smaller desk. Okay, so anyways, I start sending money to this fucking bitch on Cash App.
Okay.
And so this person, it didn't even have the company's name on it. It was just some random hoe that I was sending money to. It had no correlation to the company, and I should have been the red flag there. And honestly, these orange flags were coming up for me, but the red flag just wasn't like, the red flag was in my face, but I chose to ignore it. I'm telling you, it was a really, really rough time and I got desperate. So I got caught in the fucking trap.
The orange flag for me was definitely the furniture, because sending a laptop is normal. A lot of companies send laptops, but the fact that this company was going to send you a whole ass L-shaped desk, file cabinets, and I remember you were saying how this company was going to send over their design team to help install everything. And so in my head, I'm like, what kind of company sends over people in the middle of a pandemic to set up a fucking desk?
I guess my question too is since obviously these flags were in our face and these warnings, how come you didn't why didn't you push and see hey, I think something's going on. This doesn't seem right.
I think I didn't push because I also, like you said, it's an Italian-based company. And so I didn't really think about it too much because I've never been to Italy. I don't know how Italian jobs work. And also on top of that, you had already done the research prior. The website exists. Everything seemed very, very legit, which is actually the scary part of all of this. Not looking back and talking about it, someone is straight up impersonating a real person.
Yeah. I was getting at least 2 checks.
Yes.
And the first check was I think I don't know, maybe $1,200. And I was like, all right, cool. This will pay for the materials, training materials, whatever, the equipment. And then
what did that check look like? And how did they send it?
So the check was legit, dude. It was sent via FedEx, one day FedEx. I remember I was looking. So like I said, the flags were still in my head, so I remember whenever I got both checks, I always took a photo of it, right, before depositing it. And I looked where the bank it came from. I even looked up the address where this FedEx package came from. And I think it was some place in New Jersey or something, or Boston, Massachusetts or something. That's where the original package came from. And and I saw what it was, and it was a office building. So a building with many offices in it. And I was like, okay, cool. Their American office is probably based there right now as they're starting up and building, their locations in America. And so I also looked at the bank that these checks came from. These banks were legit institutions, financial institutions in America. So it looked like a legit check. And
Mhm.
this isn't my first go around with checks. You know, I worked in retail and other places where I've come across many different checks. I even worked with the payroll department for a little bit at one job I had.
Mhm.
I went on and deposited it at the credit union and had it, deposit into my account with no problems.
Mhm.
I still don't understand how these people are able to do that. That's something that's really confusing to me. Like, these checks are real. My credit union approved the check,
Uh-huh.
so the money was in my account. So once the money was in my account, I cash app this fool, whatever their name was, because it was the vendor for the training materials.
Mhm.
And so I remember, I think the second check was probably like 2,000, 3,000 maybe.
Why did they send you a second check?
It was for more training materials. I don't fucking know, but I don't know. I remember they were trying to send me a third check for, I think it was like an upgraded computer or software for something.
Mhm.
And then every time I deposited, they were always like, oh, let us know when you are done depositing it and
Mhm.
sending the money, and send us a screenshot of the deposit. But on the last check, I remember going back. So I was still communicating through Telegram as well as email.
Yeah.
So I hit back the person on Telegram and be like, hey, my credit union hasn't deposited the check yet. It'll probably take tomorrow because of the business hours. And usually they responded quick, like within minutes. I go back to my phone. I think it was like 10 minutes after I sent that question, and the whole thread was gone because the person, so the photo, the name, and that whole person I was communicating with, it disappeared. It just turned into this generic profile. And I was like, yo, I remember telling you, I was like, dude, this just happened. Like I don't know where this person went. So I tried emailing the person again. I tried texting that phone number that had texted me early on. Nothing. Like, silence. So I was like, dude, what the fuck just happened? So I called my credit union and I was like, hey, I think I just got scammed. So they looked into it and they told me to call, my credit union told me to call the institutions where these checks came from. So I called these institutions.
Where was it, like Bank of America, Chase?
No, like I remember one of the banks was like a bank from like Louisiana.
Okay.
Like a financial institution there. And I can't remember where the other one was, but there were institutions, like I said, they had websites. There are institutions in America for sure.
Okay, and they actually 100% exist. They were just using those names to make everything look legit.
Yeah.
Okay.
They created these checks. So then I ended up calling these institutions, be like, hey, can you check to see about this check number, and this account number, and I gave them all the information, and they're like, yeah, this check is fraudulent, and I was like, oh, man, like fuck, like all my fucking thoughts came true about it, and then I had to tell my credit union, and I was like. And so they're like, yeah, sorry. And my credit union is dope. Shout out to Pacific Postal Credit Union in the Bay. They've been a very great credit union institution to me. But anyways, so they're just like, yeah, like, I'm sorry, it's fraudulent. And I was like, is there anything you guys do for me? Because, I don't have a job right now. Like, and luckily I had money saved. So the amount that I had to owe wasn't as much as I could have been.
How much did you have to owe?
I think it was over $6,000.
And then because you had money saved, it kind of cut it in half?
It probably covered maybe like 60% of it.
Okay.
Which isn't a lot because obviously, like I said, I wasn't working, and then like that was stressful because it was money I actually put aside as well. Like it put me in a position where I felt like freaking ashamed,
yeah.
Where I felt ashamed. I was a little embarrassed, and it kind of like hurt my ego because it's like, damn, bitch, like you couldn't catch that. Like you fell for this fraud, this scam, and then it made me hella mad too because like the fact that these people are so fucking smart to handle this whole operation and scam the fucking shit out of people who don't have money. It's like, luckily I'm in a position to be okay. Even though that really hurt my pocket, like I was in a position to be okay. Like imagine if like it was somebody who had a family, or somebody who had a house, a car, who couldn't pay for anything, like that's such a shitty like situation to be in. And like the fact that these people are out there doing this shit is like fucking trash. Like it made me so mad. I wanted to sock that person in the face, and I called the cops, like the local cops, and put a report, a police report, and I asked the investigator, I was like, so what's next? And they're like, well, there's really nothing we can do. Like all we can do is place a report, and if anything happens, if you want to suppress charges, just let us know. If they're found, we'll do that, and that's it. That's it.
Yeah, that sucks because you went through all this grief. How long did they, I guess, scam you for? Was it a whole month? Was it 2 weeks? Was it 3? I don't remember.
I think it was about maybe a week and a half, almost 2 weeks.
Gotcha. See, that's 2 weeks of wasted time.
That is money.
That is 2 weeks you could have been applying to jobs, getting some possible real interviews, making money.
Have you ever been a victim of a scam ever in your life, whether it be something like this or just, a more minor level?
Yes, I have been a victim of a scam. But let me tell you, because the thing about getting scammed, because you said you felt shame, and after I got scammed, I felt so embarrassed. I didn't want to tell anybody this story because I felt completely stupid. And I know there's going to be people watching this or listening to this and thinking that I'm a complete idiot, that you're stupid, I'm stupid, how could you not? Yeah. But the thing is, it's just, as someone who's lived in a very sheltered Filipino household, no one personally taught me anything. They don't teach you about scams in school. I went to film school. They're not teaching you about that in screenwriting 101. This is real life situations that I had to learn on my own by getting scammed, and it sucked. This happened in 2018. I had gone to work. On my way there, I noticed that I get a phone call on my phone as I'm driving, and I don't pick it up because I do my best to never drive and be on my phone at the same time. It's just very dangerous, and I know better. So I don't, but I do notice it's not a block number. It's a regular number from New York. Part of me also thought, okay, maybe it's a telemarketer or whatever. But I remembered something that one of my previous bosses told me. If it's important, they will leave a voicemail. And so that always stuck with me. It still sticks with me today. So then I noticed a voicemail was left. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll listen to it when I get to the station. And I listened to the voicemail, and it's from the IRS. Or a sanction of IRS. Okay. And it was this woman, and it wasn't a robotic voice. They put in a bunch of legal jargon, all this money talk in there about taxes and something about me owing something that I have to, pay it back soon. Otherwise, I could go to federal jail for it. And so I'm like, okay, that's weird. And the thing about it is my taxes were filed maybe 3 weeks prior. So it made sense with the timeline. I was like, oh, shoot, like maybe we filed it wrong or different or something messed up. 9 months prior to that, I wasn't working. So maybe when we filed my taxes, there was something we didn't check or whatever.
That was missed.
We just missed, and we're like, oh, maybe I did owe some money. Lord, oh Lord, continuing on. So I call back the number and trying to get it straightened out. And so it's this woman, it's the same woman from the voicemail. She picks up, she's like, okay, I'm going to read you essentially these. She could have been reading the Declaration of Independence to me, and I would have been like, okay, cool, because everything sounded so legit. Yeah. The jargon, the way she was saying it, and then she would pause and she would say, do you understand it? And did I understand? No, the fuck I didn't.
Yeah. See, real quick, you know how you're talking about the legal jargon? That's like the whole point of why people have these in these contracts, is because the regular person is not meant... they're not meant to understand it. That's how they get you.
Yeah.
Because obviously, if you didn't go to law school, if you don't read this on a daily basis, you're not going to know what these big words mean.
And this person is reading it to me via the phone. So it's not like I have a piece of paper in front of me so I could look at the fucking context clues and reread it and Google shit up. So this person is reading this to me. She would pause every other stanza and say, do you understand? I would be like, yes, or whatever. She would do this. Yes.
Did you just say you understood because you wanted to just get it over with?
Yes. And I wanted to like put my voice in and just be like, can you just email this to me? Like, I'm about to start my shift. And so after she finishes it, she tells me that I owe this amount in taxes, and it wasn't a lot. It was like maybe $3,000. And to some people that is okay, that is a lot. That is a lot. That is a lot, but I guess in thinking about it, she could have been like, you owe 25,000.
Okay.
You know, in that 3,000, I could have made that in a few months of working, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was big, but it wasn't that much. And so she's like, okay, well, my job is to just tell you what is happening, how much you owe, but the person who's going to actually deal with this and for you to actually pay it off will be my colleague. Let's call him Victor. My colleague Victor, I'm going to go ahead and transfer you. He's in the finance department of so-and-so. It was very legit. I was like, okay, so sounds good. And so we transfer, she transfers me to Victor. Victor tells me the same thing. You owe about $3,000 worth of in taxes because this, and this. There was a mistake here and there. And in my head, I'm like, damn, like, you know, and also made because my dad files my taxes for me because he knows what he's doing. But it also makes me want to learn how to do all this stuff and why school should teach people how to do their taxes.
Yes, they need to teach this life lessons.
Because I feel like, and this is something I also kind of regret thinking, is that I like blamed my dad. I was like, how could my dad make such a mistake kind of thing? And I feel like a shit child thinking that my dad had made, and if my dad had made an error, it's fine. Human error, it happens. But for me to think, I fucking owe 3,000. How could my dad make such a mistake? He's been doing taxes for years. Continuing on, Victor tells me all these other things, and I tell him, hey, I would like to talk it over with my dad. And, you know, I'm like, hey, I'm at work. I'm about to start my shift. I don't have time for this. And this is where he got me. And this is the thing about scammers, is they fucking play with your head and your emotions and your heart. And he said, no, I'm sorry, ma'am, that's not possible. If you hang up, then something about me hanging up is a direct conflict to the situation, which meant that because I had already agreed to everything that woman said.
Like it would cancel out everything you just agreed to?
Yeah, it would cancel everything out I just agreed to. So me hanging up and not dealing with it right then and there meant that I could possibly go get thrown in jail. And I was like, I'm not going to get thrown in jail. I was terrified. I was so scared. And that was another thing of the terms, is that I was not allowed to speak of this to anybody. And thinking back on it, that was definitely a red flag, because it's like an orange flag waving in my face thinking back about it, because how could they not, how am I not allowed to talk about this? But the way they worded it and explained it to me, it made so much sense at the time.
They had the script down.
This was probably their 10th scam that day.
Shit.
Probably because it was just so seamless, and it was just like any rebuttal I had, they instantly had something to
counter it. So what happened next after Victor was like, no, you got to pay for this now? What happened?
Okay, so I am freaking out at the station, and I'm starting to get really vulnerable. I start crying a little bit. And then this guy has the fucking audacity to go, ma'am, why are you crying? When you cry like that, it makes it seem as if you know you did something wrong.
Ooh.
And I was like, oh, looking back on it, I'm like, oh, what a bitch.
Yeah, and definitely the red flag.
The red flag, because what professional says that?
It's gonna start to be all emotional and dig at you like that.
Yeah. And because they also said like before everything, they were like, oh, just so you know, we are recording the conversation. And they said it because they're like, if they ever need to use things in court, they could bring up this conversation. And then he kept saying, remember, this conversation is recorded. Like, they could use this in court. And you crying right now, you know, people will assume that you did something wrong because you sound so guilty. So don't sound guilty. Stop crying. And I was like, okay, Victor.
They're fucking preying on people who are vulnerable and emotional. Like, it's not even just scammers, it's like manipulators.
What happened next is I had to essentially get out of my shift. So I call at the time our promo coordinator. Love him. Hi, Corey. So I call him, and I still hadn't hung up. This was a 3-way call. And so I call Corey crying, and I'm like, hi, I have some personal business I need to deal with. I'm so sorry. Like, I'm already at the station. Like, I really planned on going to work, but now like some shit happened and I have to get out of this. Is that okay? And he's like, okay, Carla, it's fine. Deal what you need to do. Just do what you need to do. I will have someone cover your shift. It's fine. I go, and the guy tells me, okay, so now we're gonna deal with the debt that you owe. And this is where things get like kind of like, what the fuck? And more red flags. And I know, again, people are going to listen and be like, Carla, you're dumb as fuck. And I'll be like, I know. Okay. And I'm learning.
Learning lesson.
I'm learning lesson. So this guy has me go to my car and go to my bank. And he's like, how much money do you have in your bank account? Would you say? And I was like, I still had bills to pay. So I think I only had like $250 in my bank account at that time, $250. And then so he was like, okay, I need you to, I think he told me to go to the nearest like CVS, Rite Aid or something.
Like Walgreens or some store like
because
that.
he wanted me to get an iTunes gift card.
The IRS wanted you to get an iTunes gift card.
Yes, I don't know. I was already in tears and I was crying my butt off and I was scared. I didn't want to go get thrown to jail. And then I was also thinking about my family of like, these people really had all my personal information. What if they went to my parents' house and wanted to like arrest my dad for making a mistake on my taxes?
This is so trash.
I was so scared.
Like the fact that they're using fear as a tactic to affect you in that way and manipulate you. Man, that's crazy.
It was I was so freaking scared. So I go to the CVS. Okay, it was the one, so where our building was near the Grove. So it's the store that was next to the Whole Foods, I think. Is that the CVS? Or
yeah, I believe it's a CVS. So in the Grove on 3rd Street in LA, there's like a plaza there, and there's a Walgreens, I believe.
Yes. So I go there, and I'm still on the phone with Victor, bitch ass, and I'm crying, and he's like, okay, I want you to go get a blank iTunes card, a card that doesn't have money on it, and you're just gonna put money on there. I get the iTunes gift card, and okay, so this is where I should have hung up and be like, you're playing me, because so I lied to the guy. I told him I had $250. I think in reality I had like $300. So I told him $250, and he believed me. He's like, okay, you have $250, and I guess looking back on it, I'm like, I was able to lie to this guy. Like, clearly something's like not adding up. But I'm in the Walgreens with the iTunes. I put $250 on there. And then when I get back to my car, he wants me to scratch to the number behind it and give him that number. So after that, like after I did that, he was like, you know, you did a very good job today. Thank you so much for, you know, for cooperating and being a good person and getting your debts in check. He was like, oh, people will be in contact with you to pay the rest off. You'll also get some documents in the mail. And then like, I just felt so defeated. Yeah. And then I think I got Taco Bell, and then I actually drove to the OC to go do my shift.
That's a crazy story, man.
Right?
Like, obviously we just shared 2 stories of our own personal experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And Carla and I'd say we're very like, street smart, people who are aware of these things.
Mm-hmm.
But man, when you're in a position of vulnerability, it is really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I think judgment just didn't exist in that moment.
Yeah.
Or if it did exist, it wasn't enough to override, the flag, the orange freaking flag.
Yeah. I don't know if this, anyone could relate to this, but my auntie, a Filipino woman, I told her what happened and she got mad at me for making a mistake. She like kind of belittled me and she's like, how can you think that? That's so stupid. Like, and my auntie made me feel she made me re-feel those moments of shame.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, oh man, that sucks. Oh, this happened to me. Or like, oh man, like just next time be careful. She like made me feel really bad about it and made me feel
Like
so
you're
stupid.
Yeah.
And I just don't know if that's a Filipino tita thing or if that's like that happens to other people too.
I don't know. I feel like it could be, them kind of just reiterating like why are you fucking up or why are you messing up? You should know better. You should know better. Well, it's like maybe I'll know better if somebody taught me.
That's the thing. Oh my gosh. That is okay. That triggered me because I would know better if someone had taught me, aka family, because
or education system.
Because I remember at one point my parents were telling me to just, grow up or like, oh, you're an adult already. You need to do this, this, and this. But at any point in my life, they never taught me those things they were telling me to do. So how do you expect me to become adult and do certain things, but you never taught me? And those are things I was not taught with my American school system. I was not taught that at university.
Yeah.
I wasn't taught that in high school. Filipino parents baby their kids up to a certain point till maybe they're like 20 something and they're like, oh, you know what, you're an adult, you should go and do things. But they never teach you and they baby you up until they're like, okay, it's time for you to be adult. But who teaches you?
Yeah. I'm definitely a believer that the education system in America doesn't teach you these really, really important lessons because it's part of the whole scheme of things, the whole cycle. If they really, really wanted you to learn about, scams, like how to save, like just essentials like that, life essentials, they would teach you, but they don't want to. But that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
You know how your auntie was telling you, oh, you should have known better, this, and this. So my grandma's friend, she actually was in a scam as well. When people in the Philippines come here, a lot of them are working, it's up until their ages of like 70, 80, But the thing is, the reality is you have to work. Otherwise, you're not going to get any money to pay for what you need. It's hard out here in America for, immigrants, obviously. So so my grandma's friend, she is about 80 something now. And for as long as I've known her, so she rented a room in my grandma's house. And for as long as I've known her, she's always worked. And I think she was doing graveyard shift at a nursing home. She worked because she had to send money back home to her family. And that's a common thing in Filipino families where you're gonna, even if you immigrate here, you're still gonna send money back home to help take care of your family. I remember my uncle telling me that she got caught up in this scam where somebody either called her or sent her an email and said, you won like $1 million or whatever. And it was money from like Jamaica or like the Caribbean or some island country. And she basically got caught up in this scam that she ended up having to give back like a couple, like $10,000 or something. Like it was a large sum of money. And it's like, one thing is toying with our emotions as young people. And like for myself, it's, pandemic, didn't have a job, that desperation. And finally getting that win of like a job offer. Carla's was like taxes and that fear of going to prison and getting reprimanded for that mistake. And then for my grandma's friend, it was an elderly person who thought dang, I probably don't have to work anymore because I'm going to
Yeah.
get this large sum of money and I could finally just retire and relax. So they scammed this person, and I don't know if she ever had to, got to pay this debt, but I remember talking to like my uncle and like my grandma and be like, dang, like how'd she do that? Like how'd she not know that she was scammed? And like we could always say like, how did they not know? But
Mm-hmm.
when you're in that position, it is really hard to be sure of that or
Mm-hmm.
even think that, because sometimes it could be you could think like, oh, it's an opportunity of luck, and that's something that is one of probably the worst things I've heard in terms of scamming,
Mm-hmm.
because this person's older
Yeah.
and they're legit still providing for their family back home. So obviously, we've experienced ourselves these crazy scam, situations. We've heard
Mm-hmm.
stories of people in their scam situations. Like, is there anything that you've learned or like tips that you would give somebody who, could hopefully avoid this situation, especially because, like we said, scammers are getting smarter.
Oh, they are getting so smarter. So smart. Like the fact that your scammer took an actual company
Mm-hmm.
and figured out who the actual account manager is and made sure to use their name. Like that, to me, that's really smart. And who knows how smart. Next thing you know, you'll have a Zoom interview, but it's not a real person, it's an AI. But I think a piece of advice, it's hard to give piece of advice on how to avoid such scummy situations because you really don't know if or when it's going to happen to you. But I guess trust your gut. And then also, secondly, start researching and just learning things, learning more about, I guess, everything. Because if I had known that the IRS never makes house calls, they
Mm-hmm.
only send things via mail, then
To save you the trouble.
yeah. What about you?
I would say, if you're ever in a situation where you think you're in a potential scam and you just have like you said, that gut instinct, and you see that orange flag, I would ask questions, because I feel like the more questions you ask the scammer, they're eventually gonna like give you these answers that's gonna really turn that orange flag red.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's in your gut, trust your gut, man. Like a lot of situations will get you in trouble if you do not trust your gut. Your
Yeah.
gut. Like just do your thorough research. Check those emails. Make
Mm-hmm.
sure they're coming from, the company websites, company official emails. Use Google. Go, even though Google can give you like some fake answers as well. Like try your best to really
Mm-hmm.
do the most. Nothing's extra when it comes to these situations.
Yeah.
You have to protect yourself, because especially with using Cash App. I mean, I use Cash App, I use Venmo. Just be a little more aware of who you're sending that money to, because
Mm-hmm.
once you send that transaction, these apps won't give you that money back.
Yeah.
Even if you report these profiles, they can't really do anything about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So just do your best to protect yourself, even if you think it's hella extra. Like, do
Yeah.
your best.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if you happen to get scammed and you're out, whether you're out $100 or $1,000,
Mm-hmm.
just, and this is gonna sound cheesy as fuck, but at the end of the day, all that was lost is money. And yes, people have families, or yes, they need that money for groceries and things, and that's truly suck. That truly sucks. But think of it in the sense that you could have gotten physically hurt. They could have threatened your family. Or that's something that I thought about when you realize it was a scam. Like, these people have our address.
Mm-hmm.
These people know where we live. What if they
Mm-hmm.
come and, what if they find out you filed a police report and they come try to
Yeah. They
hurt us?
retaliate or some shit. Yeah.
They try to retaliate, things like
Yeah,
that.
it's
So,
scary. It's really really scary, to be caught up in these scams, because if people can go through all the trouble of doing these things, you don't know what else they can do in terms of like physically hurting you.
mm-hmm.
And I think that people are just going to do this stuff online and not go to that extent, but you just can't be, you know You can't be soft about it. You got to really be on your toes and protect yourself.
For sure. So do as much research as you can, question everything. And if you unfortunately do find yourself in an unfortunate scam, just try to think not positively about the situation, but the way you react to it. You're out a couple of money, some money, but you'll get that money back. And that concludes episode 3 of Cracking the Coconut. We hope that you enjoyed listening as well as watching this episode as much as we enjoyed recording and filming it and talking about our scam stories. And now I'm sad and hungry. How do you feel?
Yeah, it was really stressing, kind of reliving all that. However, let us know if you all have been scammed. We want to know the stories because, damn, this shit, it happens.
I guess we could bond over being scammed. But if you do have a scam story or you just want to tell us anything and continue the conversation, go ahead and follow us on social media. We are on Facebook and Instagram at Cracking the Coconut, as well as Twitter and TikTok at Cracking the Coco.
Yes, and we also have a website. It's crackingthecoconut.com. We have blog posts on there as well as all the episodes. So be sure to check us out. And like she said, continue the conversation.
Yeah, have a good day, night, week, whatever, and try not to get scammed. Peace.
Bye.
Bye.